Hi guys, today we're going to talk about something that a lot of you have never heard of before. It's a new word. It's called a stalagmite. And I am going to show you a picture of what one is. The picture that I have pulled up on my computer is a picture of, well, I have a stalagmite and I have something called a stalactite. Now we're not going to really talk about the second one, but the stalactite, the reason I have this on a computer is because you find stalagmites and stalactites in caves. And I am not in a cave right now, but this is a picture of the inside of a cave. As you can see, there are some things that drip down inside of a cave that look kind of like icicles, and those are called stalactites. But the things that form on the floor of a cave build up kind of like an upside down icicle, and those are stalagmites. Now the cool thing about the difference in them, besides being from the top and from the bottom, is that a stalactite is generally pointy like an icicle would be, but if you look at the top of a stalagmite, they're more flat. And what happens is the way this is formed as when water drips down from in the ground and it goes through the dirt until it reaches the layer of rock, and it flows through the rock because the rock is kind of like, it's porous. It can absorb the water. And kind of like if you were to stick a dirty towel on and let water flow through it, the water that comes out on the other end would be dirty. And that's kind of like how the water dripping through the earth wouldn't necessarily be dirty, but it would absorb what we call minerals. And when it drips through the ceiling down and drip, drip, drip by drip and lands on the floor, that water collects all the things that are in the earth and in the rock. And one of those minerals is salt. And so what we're going to do today, we are going to build, I guess is the best way to say it, a stalagmite. Now, Mrs. Everhart has gotten together an art project, and it's a real simple, but it shows you kind of how a stalactite is formed by dripping water or dripping paint onto a paper. And you can sort of see how it drips through a cup I think she has for you onto the ground. I guess that might end up being the stalagmite. It gets confusing. But today we are making a stalagmite by using, let me turn this around. We are going to use something called Epsom salts. Now, you can make this by using regular salt, but it doesn't necessarily work quite as well. But if you have any Epsom salts at home, we're going to make what we call a solution, and I'm going to explain all that in a moment. But we're going to mix the Epsom salts, which is basically salt, in some water, and then put it in 2 little glasses with a piece of yarn floating through. And if you remember in Mrs. Potter's class, you all made the rainbow paper towels, and you remember how it was absorbed up into the paper towels? Well, we're going to do that and let it be absorbed up into my yarn, and we're going to see over a couple of days how it drips and how the water evaporates and the salt deposits begin to build up and make a tower called a stalagmite. Now, to make my solution that we're going to need to form our stalagmites, we are going to take some water. And I'm going to start it out over here. I put a cup of water. Oh, look who's here to visit us. But I'm going to put a cup of water into my pot. Now we're going to start out with it being cold. And I'm going to I measured out about a quarter cup of my Epsom salts. And I'm just going to pour them in here. And I'm going to stir it up. Now, if you know anything about when you've ever tried to mix sugar or salt in something, they dissolve in the water, but it takes a long time. You have to keep stirring. And over time, if you kept adding more and more and more, we're going to say salt, into the water, it would finally stop dissolving because the water would no longer accept any more salt. It's full. It would get full. But you can turn the stove on and heat up the water. And by doing that, you are actually able to add more salt into our solution. It would start out being what we call saturated. That's when the water can no longer take any more salt in. But if you heat it up and the molecules spread apart and you're able to add more of the salt in it, and it would absorb more and more, it becomes something what we call supersaturated. Here I have added just about as much Epsom salts as I think I can possibly get to dissolve in here. You can see there are a few little grains of Epsom salt in there. But I want to add one more thing. I want to add some food coloring to my stalagmite mixture, just so that we can see. Makes it a little more fun to watch the tower grow, the stalagmite grow, when it has a little bit of color to it. Now, here we have our not just saturated, but our super saturated solution. We heated it up so that we could add more and more and more of the Epsom salts. You can see already some crystals forming onto the top of it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to pour it into my 2 cups, and then we will start to see what begins to happen. Here are my cups. I've added my little glasses. I've added the solution, the supersaturated stalagmite solution, that's a tongue twister, into my cups. And what I am going to do is I'm going to take doing this one-handed here, take my yarn and I am going to put it, oh my goodness, look at this. I have got so much salt dissolved in here, I'm going to have to take my spoon and help dip my yarn down into it because it's already started crystallizing. I'm going to do this, and what we're going to do is we are going to leave it for a day or two, and the water hopefully will be absorbed up into the yarn. And what should happen is the solution will make the yarn wet. You can see my colored fingers there. And it will start to drip down and meet in the middle. And what's going to happen is when it hits the middle, it will start to drip, one drip at a time. And it will drip so slowly that I'm going to put a paper towel. I forgot to get my paper towel, but I'll put a paper towel under it. And then we will start to check on it over the next couple of days. Here you see I have taken my cups. I've moved it out of the way because it's going to take a couple of days for this to really form. But you can see I put the paper towel down on the bottom because my plastic cutting board that I placed it on so it wouldn't ruin anything is not porous. That means it is not going to absorb anything like the true bottom of a cave would. So I placed paper towel down here so that as the water is absorbed up through my yarn and it meets in the middle, it will start to drip down. And just like the bottom of a cave floor, the water will soon drip into and be absorbed by the rock. And so my paper towel is going to represent the rock, and the dripping supersaturated solution is going to hopefully build, and we will hopefully have a stalagmite. So try this at home. See, it'll take, like I said, it'll take a good number of days, but we will watch it to see. Oh, since I talked about a good number of days, you know what? I have something else to show you. Look at our plants. Oh my goodness gracious, look at our beans up here. They're actually beginning to form something on the top. But look at all of the roots in here. And here are my carrots, my radishes, and my beets that we planted a couple of weeks ago. I haven't seen any vegetables form yet, but you can see the roots again. And it's just kind of neat to watch how nature begins to form. All righty, I will look forward to hearing from you about our stalagmites, and enjoy Mrs. Everhart's art project, and I will check back with you later.